Hello and welcome to another Random Code stream. I forgot to get my music going here, and I better turn my... Wait a minute. Come on. What are you... Hello, computer. Oh, it's not switched over all the way. Okay. I have a little switch on my keyboard. That's what changes the function keys. And it was like... what's going on here? Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. Okay. Whew. Great start. Happy Sundays. Okay. We good. Okay. So, I'm going to be going through some of these issues. This is just kind of a to-do list for the stream this morning, and we'll see what I can get into. Is it actually playing? Now it should be playing. Okay. So to go through some of these issues and see how far we get, I do have to do some yard work this morning, and where I live, it's pretty cold. So, I live in Minnesota. So it's supposed to be getting cold, but in November, that's when you start getting into that switch between, the summer and the winter, and you got fall temperatures, and yeah, things start getting a little bit too cold. Is it playing? Okay, it's just really... I gotta balance it because I don't want it to be too loud. I think sometimes OBS will bring something in if I'm not talking and make it a little bit louder. Anyway, so things are getting a little colder, but we have some trees in the backyard. One of them is a maple, and it doesn't drop its leaves until it gets colder out, and so that sucks. So we gotta rake those leaves and do some cleanup today. So I will be getting to that. But I wanted to do some of this work this morning. I know I've said this before in other streams, but I really got to focus on getting my material ready for a conference that's coming up next week, VS Live Orlando. I will be down there for 6 days, assuming my flight doesn't get canceled. I say that and I sound like I'm complaining, and, well, I am, but this is something that affects every single traveler. Is my flight being canceled? Am I going to be able to get to where I'm supposed to be going? And yeah, it's a fun time here in America. Wonderful. So, assuming I get down there, and assuming that attendees get down there, usually VS Live Orlando is a good event. It's their Live 360 event, and they have like a bunch of conferences there at one time. So you end up having like well over 1,000 people there. And what's the weather going to be like in... Let's check that out. Oh, yeah, that's where I live. Orlando. Well, it's currently 70s, 60s. That's this week. And I know this is forecasted out. Oh, it looks like it might actually be a pretty warm next week. It's varied. Sometimes when I've gone down to Orlando for VS Live, it can be like cool. And I think sometimes they've actually done it like the first week of December. Maybe once they've done that. They try to do it in November before Thanksgiving. And you're still generally getting decent temperatures down there, but you'll occasionally get a cool day. So in any event. All right. So that's what I got to focus on this week. So I don't know if I'm going to be doing any coding videos this week. I'll be doing a couple of gaming streams, but probably not any coding streams. I got to get some stuff done and reviewed. So with that, the first thing on the docket is to review a PR. So this is from Mitch, somebody who's helped out with rocks a decent amount in recent history. And I noticed there's definitely some dead code out there, and Mitch took it upon himself to really go through and find things that are definitely dead. So I'm going to download this branch. Actually, let's do that real quick. So let's get to rocks. Let's get that open. Right now, everything's in main because .NET 10 is being released this week. Although one thing that usually happens is these code analysis packages don't actually get released until a week or two later on NuGet. I don't know why. I don't know why they've always had that delay, but they typically have. So people that are writing NuGet packages for things related to Roslyn usually have to wait a week or two before they can finally release their stuff, if they want to target the new bits. So yeah, but everything now is in the repository targeting .NET 10, which makes it a little confusing if somebody comes in. It's like, oh, this only works for .NET 10. It's like, well, if you use the 9.3 version right now, that will work for .NET 9. So for all the packages that I'm going to be doing from now on, they're going to target .NET 10 and up. But then I'm going to start to try to be more cognizant of can my source generator stuff or my other stuff, can they be a little bit more aware of versioning and be tolerant of that stuff. So, okay. So let's go to remote, refresh. Oh, it's in a branch. It's in a fork. So I'd have to get Mitch's fork to do this. I do trust him that he did, run all the tests and everything else. It would be nice. Oh, we can do that. Okay. Uno momento. GitHub desktop. So then let's go to his repository. For my own purposes. my own nefarious purposes. Okay, and then let's get that branch. All right, so then let's go File, Open, Project Solution, go to his stuff. And I already targeted that branch, so that should be fine. And just to make absolutely sure, if we go look at something like this, we should attribute data. Here we go. Okay. Get namespaces. Yeah, that's no longer there. Okay. So let me run all the tests here just to make sure they all are good. Yeah, this is the trust but verify. I trust that Mitch is doing the right thing, but I'm also just verifying, with the second set of eyes that everything is good. As you do. Okay, those all passed. That's definitely a good sign. Let's just make sure that... Right, set a startup. There we go. We'll have to run these tests. They take about 5 minutes. This is something, by the way, that it is kind of a stress test. And I've spent off and on, you can find past streams of me doing some work with this app of trying to get it so that it's as speedy as it possibly can. It's still taking, I mean, I've got so much stuff that I'm referencing here, but it still is taking like 5 minutes to run through and do all this stuff, which is fine. I'd like it to be thorough than not, but it also makes it take, a little bit of time to get there. So once this gets passed, I will then merge his changes in, where I'll accept the PR, and then that will do that. Trying to think of what else I got going on in my life from a coding perspective. Other than getting those presentations ready to go. Not much. I have been working on something at work. I've been this year having very mixed feelings about, well, AI in general, and more the broader take on AI, not necessarily programmer based, but with Gen AI and the resources that are used in the environmental impact, and also the ethical and moral conundrums that come up with using it. It's something that's concerned me greatly, to say the least. Things for using as tools. As a developer, I'm like, if a tool helps and it's generally good, then yeah, I would use the tool. What I've had a problem with AI is this: basically you will use it and you will not question it mantra that we have going on in our general community in software development, and it makes the skeptic in me throw red flags left and right. The don't question this part is what I get annoyed about, because when I've been trying to use it at work, I've had just feeling like sometimes Copilot is way too trying to help out too much, and it's actually slowing me down and getting in my way. So I've tried to start using it again, and it's better-ish. What I've learned is, if I'm in Visual Studio and if I want like a general piece of code generated for like a method, I'll say, now here I want to do this, or now let's get the blah, blah, blah. And then Copilot will start like putting in line by line what it thinks is correct. And that seems to actually work decently well. So I got to see if I can configure Copilot to basically, not when I'm typing out code, not necessarily to just try to keep giving me suggestions, but when I'm saying this, and I would do this in code too if I'm trying to have comments in there, to just have a quick 1 or 2 sentence summary of a section to say, this is what we're doing here. And so that kind of interaction actually seems to not work too bad. But yeah, I've been doing some stuff with it, using, basically trying to create like a instructions document to drive Copilot, and that's been working okay. But also, again, it has mixed results. It also is like temperamental, like depending upon what the mood of Copilot of the day, it sometimes will give different results. And so what I said to Copilot recently is, hey, use this instructions doc to generate a console app and build a tool for me based on these instructions. And that was, the results were mixed, but it gave me a good foundation to start and then clean up some things and make it more resilient. So that's been an interesting interaction. So all right, that's all good. I think what Mitch did is good. All right, so yeah, let's go to mine. And then we'll go here to the PR. And looks good to me, Mitch. Thank you. Oh, I gotta approve it. So comment. View, approve, submit review. All right. Community help is always a good thing, right? The pull request should have been closed. Okay, cool. All right. So we are definitely on mine now, right? Just want to make absolutely sure. Yes, okay. Get manage branches. Let's pull. Ooh, dead code. Boom, done. That is off the list. Okay, people watching, I'd say cheer Mitch. So, yeah. All right, next thing on the list is anything left for 10.0 in rocks. So that would be, we do have a couple things. Some test cases are not running. This is something that should be, we're dependent on NUnit fixing their stuff. Now, I put an issue out here. They closed it because they said, yes, this is definitely an issue, but their 6.0 is going to fix it. And they said, version 6 is due for release. You can use the version 6 alpha of the adapter. Okay, so that's all good. The problem is, though, is if you look, let me close some stuff out here. And I go to packages. You'll see that I'm using their beta, actually. So they're saying their alpha one from their MyGet feed was going to fix it. They now have on NuGet, they have a beta version. I'm guessing beta is after alpha, if I know my Greek, which I don't. But it's funny taking classes like in math and engineering in college. You start learning alpha, beta, gamma, delta, pi, rho, or is it phi? Rho, epsilon. You know, they start throwing all these Greek symbols in there to define stuff. So I picked this and I run all my tests, and I will still get some that are being skipped. So I'm not convinced that this is fixed yet. We're gonna keep mine open until I am absolutely sure we're getting tests run. And let's just, yeah, I don't know. Let's see if I go to solution and I say manage packages. Do we have any updates out there? Yeah, we do. Do we have any from NUnit? No, we don't. We could pick some of these and we could grab these and see just like, are they going to break the code for the code gen stuff? But I will do that at another time, not right now. But yeah, there's nothing open here from NUnit, so don't know. So that one still lasts. Add implicit operators. I'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, consider writing a suppressor. So where this comes from is if I have code like, let me zoom in on this a little bit. If I have code like this, and actually this now changes, this is setups, but I get a 2000 on the instance call here because this implements iDisposable, and we're making an instance of it. And so this rule kicks in and says, hey, you should call dispose on it. Well, that's not for us to do. That's for the code that's going to be using it should do the right thing. So the idea is to suppress this and write a suppressor, which we've already done. One of the issues with suppressors is that there is another issue out there with suppressors. If I go to all my issues, actually this one can be closed now. Okay. Yeah, we're just looking at open issues. Get rid of that. Come on. Test package when available. Yeah, this one. So this is something that we should track in a milestone. And let's put it into 10 right now. The problem is that this issue is considered closed because they have fixed it, but it's in a 130 package. 113. And like I said, I'm definitely doing that. The problem is that they haven't released it, and I've reported, this has been reported for a while, but I put my thing out there at March, and somebody said, like, hey, this is just yesterday. Is there going to be a proper NuGet release? The problem is that, Microsoft had these layoffs, and these layoffs did affect folks on dev teams, and the people that were supporting all these packages were laid off. And so I've kind of picked up in some of the Discord servers that they're kind of like, well, we don't have anybody to support this, which sucks. So I'm sitting there now going, are these packages basically dead? Are they ever going to release versions of this stuff, especially, for fixes? So the problem is that there's a bug out there that only shows up when you're writing a test for a suppressor. And you can't get around it because it's in a type initializer. So they needed to fix it. They have a fix, but it hasn't been released. So I'm kind of hoping with 10 that they release it, but if they don't, I don't know. I mean, I want to do this because I think it, we've done one suppressor in Rocks, and I think it'd be good to do, to have another one because we could kind of follow what we were doing before. So by the way, if you don't know what a suppressor is, it's basically saying if we call instance on one of our expectations, and that causes this to happen, suppress it, because we're saying it's okay for, you can't suppress compiler errors, that you can't do. But diagnostics, even if their level would be set to error, you can suppress them if you're saying what my code is doing is okay. And that's actually a nice thing because in certain cases like this, we're saying it's okay if this is suppressed. Because the way this should be used is somebody's using this object under test, and that should be the one disposing it, not us. So, yeah. Or if you're passing this in as a dependency shouldn't have dispose called on it. So you wouldn't want them to necessarily call dispose on it. But either way, we want to suppress this. So I'm kind of thinking, let's keep that out. Back to milestones, 10. So we did test cases. We talked about the suppressor, test package, reduce projected code even more. This one would be interesting because there's like 3 types that are in .NET that nobody uses. But I picked up in my CodeGen tests that there are things in .NET that you could mock that use these things like arg iterator, typed reference, and something else. And so I have code to project a type, an argument type, that will work for these specific types. But I realized, well, we have this separated library now, Rocks, and I could put these types in there directly and just say, hey, reference them. but the case to do it is so small. Nobody uses these types. The other thing I'm also considering is adding 4 pointer defaults, because what I do now is if you're using a pointer, not a delegate, an unmanaged function pointer, but just a pointer, that will generate an argument type for as many splats as you have. But I don't know if I've ever seen any .NET code where somebody uses like the 4 pointers or more. 3 is the most I've ever seen, and that was in COM days. So I'm kind of sitting here going, maybe I just hard code 4 of them and use that. And if you go beyond that, what are you doing? But then there's this part of me that goes, what's currently here works, and it's for cases that are rare. Pointers are rare, but not that much rare. These 3 types are really, really rare. So does it hurt? And the code that I have in Rocks to only generate these projected types when necessary will only generate 1 instance of them if you need them. So I'm kind of sitting here going, is this really worth it? So I don't know. I think, that's not what I meant to do. What I meant to do is say, let's change it to 1. Because I don't think it's necessary, and I think we might be able to just keep pushing it out. And then this one is one that came from Mitch, kind of, is to add implicit operators for argument and rough struct argument for predicate. But as I started doing some tests of it, it wasn't going to work because C# can't implicitly pick this up. It'll fail with this error. So you can't do something like this. It just won't work. What you could do is this, which really comes to create, and then you just have to say new argument and passing that predicate in. And so I was kind of sitting there going, I don't really know if this is worth it at all. I think this is the only reason I added this implicit operator here is because I wanted to say, if you were saying, I expect this method to be called with a integer value 3, you could pass in a 3 there and it would implicitly convert to an argument of an int with the value being 3. But anything else, it's like, well, you could just create the argument here if you really wanted to. There are like arg is, I think I made those things, but actually the more I think about it, I think it makes more sense just to use target type new on all of them. If you want to pass in like a predicate to do validation, or you can say arg is default too, because you're saying I want it to be the default value. So, but this just doesn't work well. So, and then Mitch came in and said, try to find an example of what I was doing that would help this out. It's something to do with a rough struct or now parameters applied specifically to rough struct argument. I think the alternative new gets messy when there are multiple rough arguments. Local functions are probably a better way. Maybe I just didn't think of it. Yeah. So I'm going to just leave this here for now, but this may get deferred to, in fact, I'm going to do that. God, I keep clicking the wrong thing. We're going to push it out to 10.1 because I just don't see the value in it right now, and I don't want to try to push this out there. So really all we got left to do is create this suppressor. Okay. So yeah, we clean that up, and then that'll be the last thing I do for a 10.0 release. But what I really wanted to get to is CSLA and updating some code there for my generator, my source generator, because Rocky finally created an interface we can use for metastate so that I don't have to generate a whole bunch of, what was I going to say here? A whole bunch of reflection code. I can get rid of that. But before I do that, I want to really quickly talk about this Tachyon library that I started working on again and put some effort into. What I want to do with this is is not just do logging. I want to expand this out a little bit to say, let's give developers an easy tie to say, I want to intercept this invocation. And I think this is important to differentiate here when we talk about this, because this isn't, I want to intercept a method definition. Or I want to, this is saying something is being invoked in my code. I want to intercept that invocation, because this is not, I can handle any invocation anywhere from any type that's currently being used by an app. That's not what C# interceptors are. Okay. But what I want to do with this is say, hey, let's create an interceptor that lets people hook into these interception calls, and then they can decide to do what they want. So if we say, for example, that, oh, that's wrong. Excuse me. Jeez. So we say we want to call worker, and this is what we want to intercept as calls to work. Okay. And then we put working in the interceptor's namespace. What Tachyon would do is right now is it just said, hey, let's create some logging calls, which is fine. But what I want to do is do something where we create a partial class with a partial method of this. And what this is going to do is force a developer then to create an implementation for this. And then they can do that interception themselves. So they don't have to write the source generator to do the interception. All they have to do is add the namespace or namespaces of types they want. And then also with this work that I'm proposing is to have something where we have an additional file, and we're assuming you've put this interceptor's namespace in. And so then what we're saying is, and I don't know exactly what the string version of these would look like, but that if I put this entry in, this is saying if the method definition starts with, it's basically from system GUID, then do it. If it's from system string and it starts with is null or. So if you call it is null or empty or is null or white space. And so that would filter it down even more so that you'd only get interceptors for those things. So we want to do this first, and then we could come back and do this work. And I thought, well, then maybe we can also say something where we could do generalized interception and have something where we call a method or we intercept a method and we provide some on before or on after or whatever, and then people can do whatever they want with it. Or we could add in aspects. We could add in logging first for somebody and then tell them, hey, this is being called. They can handle the interception themselves that way. So that's kind of what I want to do with Tachyon, is make it, I think I updated the README, because I want to, and that's not right. It's not automatically logs. That should be changed. I thought I put it in the actual Tachyon. Yeah, that's what this should say, really, is what this is saying here. So actually, before I go too far, let's edit this right now. Yep. There. Because I want to be clear as to what it's actually doing. And so I think this would be it. This ends up being kind of a nice, interesting package to use in certain scenarios. So that's, again, this is not a 1.0 yet, but I'm going to be developing this more probably when I get back from VS Live Orlando. I want to focus on this one a little bit more and see if I can get it up to working order. Okay, let's get back to CSLA. We're going to spend the rest of the stream on that. Pick this up. So this is going to be a breaking change. So this is why I said 2.0, which is this one. So now there is this metastate interface there. So I want to go through now and change what I'm doing so that I don't generate all my code, but that I am using this. So that breaks because that means you have to now be targeting CSLA version 10. So I have to change this to 2. So let's do that. Let's do this. Let's see how far I get in this. Okay, we are on main. Let's just make sure that I got the latest. We've got an 18 branch out here, but I think that's something that's closed, right? Yeah, so we can delete that. Delete that. Okay, we can go back here. And let's make a branch for this. Okay, so do we have any tests around this right now? Let's wait, I'm in the wrong one. I think it's been a hot minute since I've been in here. Yes. We want to give me one moment. What this did is it got some things that are an N unit that say assert enter multiple scope, which is the right thing to do, but unfortunately the formatting isn't the greatest, so you got to go back on all these and reformat them. So since these are considered changed in Visual Studio, I'm just quickly going through and saying reformat so that they're lining up rather nicely. Okay, state test. This is the one. Yeah, this is the one. So these things, if you look at there should be in this. State tests. So you see this business base accessors crap? This is what we want to have go away. What we want to do is call on our, and it's not here because I got to update CSLA to do this. But on our state data, we want to, on the object that we're given, yeah, because that's how we're implementing this. So what we want to do is on our self, instead of these things, these should no longer be needed. And in fact, I would argue, and I don't know if this is what we're going to find out. I would argue that we no longer have to do any of this. What we will need to do is say context writer write this dot get metastate or set metastate, get metastate, and then on the get, we would say this dot set metastate getting the field. So that should get rid of all these things and get it to one line of code for that stuff. That's the intent. Whether that happens or not is what this branch is all about. So let's go here and say manage. Actually first, because we have to make this a 2.0. And we do want to target 10 now. And let's get the latest and greatest. So yeah, we can do that. We definitely want this version of CSLA. Yeah, let's just select all packages and update. Now, by doing that, nothing should break. Oh, yeah. CSLA did a whole bunch of nullability stuff. Finally. So, yeah, object. So the serialize methods. Wait, to serialize. Oh, it's returning. Okay. So we need that. We need that. And then this could potentially be null. And this could be null, I think. Of course, now this starts to trickle through the whole world. We can read and write nulls. That we already support that. Sorry, this has been a very hot minute since I've looked at this code in a while. Oh yeah, this is the mobile object. So when we say read, we're reading the state value. If it's a duplicate, we get the reference we've already captured, so we can get duplicated references. If it's the value, we say if it's sealed, create an instance, otherwise duplicate this. Read the string, add the type name. So who's calling this? It's an integration test. That doesn't work. That doesn't work either. See, so this is trickling through everything now that I'm doing, which is we need these references. And then that does this. Okay, now that worked. Okay. So now do we get everything to build? Nope. Okay. Rocky, I hate you. None of this has to do with the change I'm really trying to make. The issue is that CSLA in this version, I think, added a whole bunch of nullable reference type annotations. They finally went through and did all that. So that's causing some churn here. Oh, really? Why was I doing it the old way? Even I should know better than that. As you see here, we get property that's a GUID. And that's a value type, so that can't be null. This could be. So we can fix it like that. But the problem is that I've got to go through now and like update so many things. So what do we have in analysis here? Okay, that works. Let's run the tests and analysis. Wait, do I have... We're going to want to change that. So let's go to... yeah, we want to have enable end unit runner. Okay. So let's run all the tests here. Actually, let's just get that refreshed. Jotaro, I think that is. Hello. Okay, let's run the tests in this project. Let's see if we broke anything or not. Of course we did. Oh. Do I have everything in this project that I need? Good. Glad I got that right. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Okay, what is this? Typer namespace testing does not... That's a new one. Can you run the test now? What is this self-registered extensions crap? Okay. Doubt that'll make a difference. Oops. So building the project works. Oh, no, I guess that did make a difference. Oh, and there's something else I want you. I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for asking. Anxiety. May I know what you're doing? I have a little knowledge. Love it. Explain. This is giving me anxiety. The code that I'm writing is giving you anxiety. I hope that's not the case. What I'm working on, what I have been working on the stream was just going through some of my repositories in NuGet and just reviewing some things that either I want to work on or not. Oh, 30 failed. Excellent. But what this is a source generator that generates serialization work for a framework called CSLA. So that is what I'm working on right now. Of course, what I'm also working on is how in the world did all those tests fail? Why did they fail? What? Oh, yeah. Okay, I think I know what the problem is. And this is something that I was just about to change anyway, because I figured out in Rocks that what I want to do here is have this. Yeah, we're getting .NET 9. We want it to get 10. But we want to... Whoops. That. And then let's get rid of this. And so when you're running these tests this will just get these reference assemblies once. And so that makes the code... And I needed to update it for 10. That was a problem. C++, no, this is C#. When is C#? Yeah, that C++, no, this is C#. So... Let's see how this works now. Well, we got more passing, which I guess is good. Possible null reference return. Oh, Rocky. Rocky's the one that wrote CSLA. I'm kind of interested why you think this is scary. I'm not like criticizing it. I'm just curious why you said this is scary looking. Okay, this was unexpected. And I just flat out forgot that version 10 of CSLA added all the nullable annotations. So that's that's something I have to work through first before I can actually get to the fix I want to do. But isn't that true of software development? Like you think, oh, I just need to do this, and then you end up realizing I need to do 10 other things. Story of my life. So it says it's on line 26 of the code. And then also probably syntax, which kind of, yeah. JavaScript, C Sharp, Java, C, C++, they're all like in some sense a derivation of C in terms of syntax, not implementation, but they all use kind of somewhat similar-ish things. The semicolon is one of them. But they've all radically deviated, from having all C syntax. They're similar in look to a little bit of a certain degree, but then they all go off and do all their own things. I don't get the possible null. This is 16 there. So 16, 45, 61. So because what's coming out of here I believe the problem is we're saying, no, I was like, I never read these concepts. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to think in my head, how do I want to handle this? Earlier, see, and then see, Python doesn't look so scary. I don't know much Python at all. How do I want to handle this? what is this actually giving here? Okay, so it's giving back a null. Which is fine. We've been handling... Weird question, but what's your favorite programming language and why? I don't know if it's favorite, but the one I use the most is C#, mostly because that's the one I've been using for 23 years now. No other reason other than that. No, it's not Java, it's C#. So this is returning now a nullable string. So how do I want to handle that? Because what it's complaining about is the C# added all these, or I'm sorry, CSLA added all these null annotations, is that read property now is actually returning a nullable string, not just a string. 23 years. Sorry. Yeah, I'm old. If you can tell by the grays in my beard, but I've been doing this. I've been a quote unquote professional software development. Like my first job out of grad school was in 95. So I've been doing this for 30 years. It's my experience in C# is older than my kids. So my kids are adults now. So and it's interesting that like where I work, we sometimes have interns on our team, and for the longest time I did software I was a consultant for like 25 years more or less. We just never had interns. And so where I work now, where I've been working for the past 5 years, we do, and which is great. I've got nothing against it. It's just, it's weird to have people on the team that like they don't understand Office Space references. They're younger than the language that I've used. I'm like, they're my kids' age. So it's kind of a mind twist at times. I haven't even started a degree yet. Well, that's interesting that you bring that up, because the whole notion of getting a degree is, and not just, I mean, with software development or like getting a comp sci degree, how much do you really need a degree? For some things, I mean, obviously with like medicine and being a doctor, I think, yeah, you definitely need to have that education. And it's not to devalue the education. It's just saying times have changed a lot recently. And it's not to say that AI is making things better, but I think the ability to learn and to educate yourself has gotten much, much easier. Whereas, also the cost of an education, like post high school, is astonishing how much it's gone up. And I'm like, unless you have a really, really good guess as to what you think you're going to be doing in your life, I would almost say to people, don't go to school, don't go to college. Or at least you really got to weigh, I might be, 6 figures in debt by the time I get done with this, depending on what college I go to. And then I got to pay, I might have to pay student loans off for who knows how long. It was very different 30 years ago. Like if you look over my left shoulder, you can see one of my degrees on the wall there. I went to Marquette University, and I got a bachelor's and a master's there. And that's a semi-private-ish school. It's not. It sort of is, but it isn't. And at the time it was more expensive, but fortunately I had a couple scholarships and support by my parents. And in retrospect, it wasn't that. I mean, it was money, but it wasn't that much considering how much you have to spend now. Back then, people could go to college and I'm not saying you didn't have to worry about money, but it wasn't as pressing. Now it's like, holy God, $25,000-$30,000 a year. It's like, geez, it's becoming untenable, in my opinion. So, so cool talking to Senior Jam. I'm just building on my project. That's a good thing, Jam. I mean, I think that's a good thing to do. I just stumbled across a channel on YouTube. It got recommended to me probably because I watch programming videos, but it's somebody. She's like 20 years old and she goes to college, and she's doing these videos where she's talking about projects she's working on or like doing leak code challenges. And on a whim, I just went to her website, and it's like it's done really, really well. And I'm sitting there going, that if I was trying to hire somebody out of college, that would be, I'm not going to say more impressive than having a degree, because that's not necessarily it, but showing that you're putting the work in. And I'm not I'm not expecting somebody to know everything out of college. Nobody knows everything. That's ridiculous. But, showing that you have that kind of interest in your career would definitely be a differentiator. So, yeah. Have a question. Is core CS still relevant in this age? I'm learning. Just looking through the other chats. So it's core CS. Well, my degrees are in electrical engineering. So in retrospect, I've said to people, if I knew how much I loved programming, it took me to get, when I was in grad school, to finally realize what I really want to do is software development, not necessarily electrical engineering. So I never was in a formal comp sci program. Is it relevant? In my career, most of what you're taught in CS isn't what I use on a day-to-day basis, but that doesn't mean that people don't. There are definitely things that, in companies that you work at, that you may use a lot of things like with references to things you learn about data structures and computational complexity and all that kind of stuff that may be very relevant to what you do. So those concepts I don't think are like that you're never going to use them. And the more you know, the better off you are. I've learned over my 30 years, I still will keep myself self-educated on programming topics as much as I can and learn new things that I don't know about from before. So is that helpful? I guess it depends a little bit. That's one answer I always give, is it depends. And what you end up doing. Is it absolutely required? No. There's lots of people I know that are in software development that never came from comp sci or even college, just ended up falling into it and liking what they did and learning about it. So, it's kind of one or the other. Let's see other chance. Any big companies, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, or just understanding or that's kind of true. I mean, the companies like that, especially depending on the group that you get into, like there's some places in Microsoft that you don't necessarily have to have that strong data. I'm assuming with DSA you mean data structures and algorithms, but that you don't need that deep of a knowledge. Now, if you're going to go on to, like, for example, because I do a lot of stuff with Microsoft tools, so this is more about what I know. If you would, for example, go look to say, hey, which I do know on the Microsoft team, the Roslyn team, which is basically their compiler tools team. One of the managers in that team just posted on Blue Sky this week that they're looking for 2 software engineers. So if that interests you, go find me on Blue Sky and look at what I liked this past week, and then you can find it. But the point is, on a team like that, yeah, you definitely would need to know data structures. You would need to know compilers theory, even though, what they do with compilers is a little different, just like anybody else. It's not necessarily the Red Dragon book, but it's, that kind of work would definitely need that understanding. So, not even out of high school yet. Well, I got PowerEdge servers in my garage. When I was growing up, what got me into computers, at least to start, was an Apple IIe. I think it was a 2E. My 7th grade math teacher had one in his room, and I was enamored by it. I'd actually stay after school to program on it because I was so interested in it. But then it took me a while to really, I knew computers were going to be a thing, but it took me a while to realize that what I really wanted to do is program them. So, but yeah, it's, everybody starts somewhere. It's always super tough. Well, not always. I was going to do electronic engineering, but the government funded the course I was going to start. That sucks. Do you know Terry A. Davis? I don't. The name doesn't ring a bell. To use AI, well, I think everybody's using AI, whether they want to or not. I think you probably came in after I was talking about this at the beginning of the stream. I've had very mixed reactions to AI and Copilot and stuff. But what I'm more negative on is not necessarily the programmatic or using it in software development per se, but the ethical, the moral, the environmental concerns that I have around it, and other people do as well. Like if you look at Sora and other tools that are generating stuff, it's becoming rapidly to the point where by default, I tell everybody, by default, you should not believe what you're seeing on TikTok, on YouTube. Like, I'm an AI. No, but seriously, really question what you're seeing out there now, because it's becoming scary good. And there have been videos generated in just the last month or two to support or criticize certain political positions that were just simply not true at all. So that's what's really scary. Ethical concerns about just basically stealing copyrighted content and stealing content from creators, artists, musicians. It's something I have a real problem with. Now, as a developer, using like Copilot, I do at work. I've had mixed feelings about it. Sometimes I think it does help, and sometimes it doesn't. Getting to the other part of your question about like for interns and people for using it as a job. It's a tool. It's a tool like everything else. I have a hard time using the word AI because artificial intelligence has a much stronger, it starts getting into things with consciousness and understanding. And I don't think we're there still. It may seem like it's really, really good at that, but I don't think it's quite there. But the whole fundamental underpinning of all this stuff being machine learning and neural networks and all that stuff. Yeah, if it can help me with some tasks that I'm doing, sure. Is it going to eliminate every white collar job out there? No, I don't believe that. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to get rid of developers. There's no way, from what I've seen, what these tools generate, at least right now, and I hear, give it another year or two and it's going to get better. Well, maybe, but I think you're going to always need humans to review and figure, it's an aid and it's an assistant. And you have to still have the intelligence yourself to understand, did this actually help or not? Here's an example. So like right now where I work, we're in the whole end of the year review phase where you have to give reviews for other people, get reviews for yourself, get your lead to give you a review, and this all goes to salaries and stuff like that. And we use Slack internally, like a lot of companies do. And somebody noted in our group this week that, hey, if you just typed into Slack, what were my achievements and accomplishments in the past year? Slack will use AI to look through everything that you've done in Slack and give you a summary. And it was like, holy crap, that was impressive. But it's all based on data that's there. Like I still had to do all that. I still had to, and if I didn't put that in Slack, Slack wouldn't have been aware of that, So, but still, it gives you enough content to go, okay, I can use this in my review. I still have to tweak it. I still have to modify it. But it also is good because it data mines, and it reminded me of a couple things. I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that earlier this year and I completely forgot. So, which is good for a review. So yeah, that stuff I'm all for. I'm not against it. I think people that are new to software development don't rely upon it as a crutch and don't assume what it's giving you is correct. I think that there's always going to be this need to go, did what it do what I want it to do? Is what it did, is it what I really want? And so I still think you need that check to go, even if it generated 20 lines of code for you or whatever, is it really what you want it to do? So there's that. View AI like a calculator. Yeah, I mean, it's a tool. It helps. I don't have to sit there and figure out how do I add 2 5-digit numbers together. I can use a calculator and do it. And I don't have to sit there and think about carry the one and all that crap. But a calculator doesn't solve all my problems either. And you also have to understand that with a calculator, there are limitations. How big of a number can you store? This is all based on binary, so you're going to have some precision loss, and you have to keep that stuff in mind. So it's funny too. We use Copilot on our PRs. So Copilot can't approve a PR, that for legal reasons at the very least. But what it can do is scan what we did in PRs, and you'll provide a summary and also provide potential suggestions. We're very good on our team about using like code analysis, static analysis tools, following standards. So that really helps. So by the time we do a PR, we're pretty good at that point, but it might catch occasional things. One thing I noticed with Copilot and PRs, we have a changelog file. And just recently, I've seen this happen a couple times, like where I'll put in the date where I'm going to make a new release of a package we're doing. And that date is today, or like, this is at the end of October, so it was October 31st, and it said, that date is wrong. That's not a valid October date. And I just kind of looked at the thing, I'm like, the hell it isn't. That's absolutely correct. So I'm like, you can't even get that right? That makes me go, nah, I don't think we're there yet. So let's see. Okay, I don't mind asking questions. I'm just here to code, and if people have, comments or things, I'm all for that. It's really good conversation. It's good. Well, I may be good in my field. I don't feel so good right now because I got stuff to fix in this, but I do appreciate that. When they first came out, most people thought they replaced mathematicians. But it's interesting you say that too, because in the field of mathematics, what is that tool? I forget the name of it, but there's a tool that's being worked on. Well, there's lots of tools in math that are being worked on, but this one is for theorem proving. And there's this idea of if you can formalize your proofs, which is all what math is about, to start getting into where it can start maybe reasoning about, well, if this is true, could this be true? So, and making some of that process of proving more automated. So, but yeah, it's still a tool. There's still that. I think AI will be the same in a few years. I'm thinking, Jam. I'm thinking what you're saying is that it's the same as what it is right now. I think that's what you're saying, which I would agree with and not. Technology. There's always been. I mean, yeah, Moore's law, but there's always also been the things get better over time. Technology gets better. I do have, again, a very big environmental concern where it's like we need to build humongous data centers for all of this stuff, and it's like, why? I don't know. AI isn't self-aware. Yeah, you're right. It's definitely not self-aware. You give it crap data, and you're gonna get crap output. I mean, FIFO, except it's GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Data could eventually become a form of currency. Yeah, that wouldn't be against that. Still a tool, but more polished. Came from mechanical calculators to digital calculators, for example. Yeah, I find it interesting that, like, to me, what would be revolutionary in not just software, but in science in general. Like, to me, AI isn't revolutionary. It can definitely be helpful. Like, that's not a criticism of it. It's just, I don't find it to be that revolutionary, and again, I find some very big ethical things to be concerned about with this stuff. What I would actually find very useful is room temperature superconductivity. That would be very, very empowering in a lot of different ways. If we could have commercialized quantum computing, I don't know where that would go, but I kind of that fun, because everything right now is still ones and zeros. Everything we still do, still based on ones and zeros. And to have a computing platform that would do everything from a quantum perspective would be just, I don't even know what that would look like. But that would, I think, be a fundamental change in a lot of what we do. Having sustainable controlled fusion reaction and being able to have, like, very clean output of energy. Those types of things interest me a lot more than AI does, or at least what we currently have as large language models. And like somebody said, yeah, I don't think AI is self-aware right now. When I was in college, when you'd read books on artificial intelligence, especially from people like Douglas Hofstadter and other people, that to try to formalize and conceptualize what AI actually means is not what AI is right now. It's a marketing term. So, yeah. And I always just say to people, have you ever watched any sci-fi movies like The Terminator? Do you really want that kind of AI? I don't know if, I don't know if I really want that. Not sure about that. You have a LinkedIn? Yeah, you can find me. Go to jasonbach.net. I have links to, like, Blue Sky and LinkedIn there. You can check it out that way. Commercialized quantum computing. Yeah, it definitely would be interesting. I would be very interested in that. All right. Again, I don't mind talking about all this at all. This is great. I love this. But I do want to just look at this a little bit more before I have to take off and do some yard work around the house. So yeah, I did not anticipate with CSLA, their latest changes, that they added all the nullable annotations, which is fine. That's the right thing to do. It's just, like, what this code actually is doing when it gets compiled is it's returning a nullable string. This is expecting a string. So again, if I go back up to this, and no, it's in here. And I go to the writer context. This uses a binary writer. And if I look at all of its stuff here, it's always expecting you to be writing something like a non-null value. So that doesn't jive, and it goes, yeah, that's a problem. So I have to think and figure out about this, like, what do I actually want to do here? And this is the fun about software, is that you run into problems, you go, how do I get around this? I don't think we'll get quantum computers soon. Security risks to crack. I mean, this is C#. Zartha. I think that's how you say it. I don't think security risk is what's going to stop it. It's inevitable from, well, I don't say it's inevitable because there's legitimate physical things that we have to get past because a lot of the quantum stuff right now is all experimental, uses extremely cold temperatures. So that can't be commercialized. There needs to be things to figure out before that actually be, and of course stabilization of quantum states and stuff like that. Things that I just hear of, but I don't have a deep understanding of, but it's definitely not commercialized. If you can break through some of the physical problems that they have right now, it's going to be commercialized. So the security, that's why you hear about post-quantum cryptographic algorithms, because they've been in development for years now because of the concern that quantum computing is going to be able to crack a lot of current cryptographic algorithms. So there's algorithms already in place that have been standardized to say that they should be resilient against even quantum computing. So the problem is getting everybody on that, and it's an arms race. That's what's fun about security. It's always an arms race. Hackers do this. People like in information security groups and stuff like that, they'll figure out how to defend against that, and then they break that and defend, and it just it keeps going back and forth like that. I meant after all those computers with the size of room. Oh yeah. Well, data centers, they're still like size of a room, size of warehouses, massive warehouses these days. But the classic thing of like, this is my phone. This is how many orders of magnitude better than what we flew people to the moon with on their computers. So by the way, they actually do have in GitHub somewhere the source code for the computers that were used on the Apollo missions. I haven't looked at it, but I know it's there, and I know people that have done like talks on it just to go, hey, this is the architecture and this is how it works. So that's kind of interesting. So at this point, though, I'm going to stop because I do need to get some stuff done, but I have to also think about what do I want to do with these knowable things before I can actually get to the thing that I really wanted to do. So the fun of computing, but this has been fun. I'm glad people have stopped by and chatted. By the way, subscribe to the channel, please. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers as my next goal. So any new subscription helps. If you're already subscribing, I do appreciate you for doing that. So again, I don't know when I'm going to do another coding stream because I do have a conference to go to next week that I'm speaking at, so I'll be busy with that. And this week I have to get stuff done for the conference, so I'll be busy with that. I will be doing some more gaming streams this afternoon on Hollow Knight Silksong. I'll be playing that, and a couple streams this week. Maybe I'll get a coding stream in this week at some point, but this is a random code stream. It's random whenever I feel like it. So last question I'll take. Have you tried Claude Code? Well, I've used Claude in Copilot for some stuff at work. So yeah. It's the same issue with AI as well as in terms of power. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to stop. Again, thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate it. But with this, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.